All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Symphogear Season 2, Episode 2. Yes, and Maria has declared war on the world, potentially.
Oh, potentially, absolutely. Potentially.
Or
100%.
rather, declared herself ruler of the world, and that everyone else basically better not go to war with her because she can control the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And this whole concert was just to have a world stage of this caliber.
Yep.
Even though she literally put one of the only people that could stop her right next to her to do this.
Divide and conquer, maybe? Because Tsubasa's not here?
Or maybe just try to recruit Tsubasa.
Sure.
I mean, either way, let's see how this goes, Maria, because I don't see how... I don't see how this is going to work out well for you specifically.
Right, even if you have Gungnir and apparently, like, OG, like, true form Gungnir or whatever, Hibiki's pretty strong. And Chris is also nearby. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see this being a problem.
I understand the hostage situation here.
Right.
But generally speaking, hostage situations are because you got pushed into that. You don't usually lead with the
you don't want that to be your first card.
Yeah, no. You want to have something slightly other than this. But, hey,
if the whole world is our hostage...
If you can control all the noise in the world, which you still haven't proven yet, then maybe you're a credible world-scale threat. So, we'll see. Good luck with you and your mom.
Yeah.
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Alright everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Alright, so we got ourselves a triple superb song that was all Hibiki's burden that she harmonized with to create some new version of it. Okay, that's exciting. That's awesome.
All right, cool.
I loved the power of friendship combining our powers moments, just in general. So this was awesome.
The introduction of the two new Symphogear users, like that, I actually really loved that. Yeah, and that was the kind of thing that I was expecting. Or not for this show, but in other series, I would not be excited for that sort of thing because it can feel kind of like, yes, we're going to pad the cast of villains with like mooks and stuff that don't really matter, but they're sort of like the not as important fights that we can have in there. But the personality of the characters seems a lot of fun. I am excited to have them on screen, right? Yeah. Their banter with each other was a lot of fun. And yeah, if that ends up having them fight our main cast, cool.
And if it leads to more interactions with the Fine organization outside of our main cast, meaning that they can all interact with each other, and it doesn't have to be just from the mother-daughter dynamic, I think that'll be pretty cool.
Yep.
Also, it leads to some more interesting questions about, okay, so how much has happened in the last, bit of time since the moon incident?
Right.
Is Symphogear something that more people just have available to them, or is this just more set up for the global
conflict?
Not conflict, but the stage of things in that, no, the reason the world hasn't ended thus far is because everyone in the world has some kind of thing that they can use to battle the noise.
Sure.
Otherwise, I wouldn't buy that this world exists right now.
Yeah, I mean...
So that's there's a couple things that are starting to crop up that I'm not really wanting to give insane focus on, because this is a show that's about the rule of cool.
Absolutely.
And yet it does put a lot of thought into the intricacies of the lore. Not as much as I would say the story, details wise, but I'm excited to see where this season takes us, because the stuff that they hinted at with Hibiki and the backstory there.
Yep.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Because there's a couple things I feel like it could be connected to, but I don't want to make any leaps right now.
Right, but that is something where I feel like that's a fun acknowledgement that basically, okay, we got more than the first season. That means we can flesh out these characters a bit more, right? Because the character depth that we had in the first season was basically Chris needing to be Nakamud, Tsubasa needing to come to accept Hibiki and all of that, right? And then Hibiki and Miku, and would they be able to reconcile, right? And that was
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
That was pretty much it. It worked great for the first season. It worked great, right? But if this show is going to go on for 5 seasons, granted, of course, they don't know that at the time of this season, but if it's going to go on longer, then you'll want to have more opportunity for character conflict, because as awesome as the hype battles with the crazy music and stuff is, that's not the whole pie, right?
Yeah.
So that's
the presentation of the story, basically.
Right.
That's the method by which we will enjoy and get sucked into the characters, which are the story. So, okay. So I think I misconstrued a couple things. They are not necessarily any of them possessed by Fine. They are just an organization called Fine.
For some reason, and we don't know exactly why.
Well, probably because someone that was at their organization's beginning was possessed by Fine.
Yeah, this is not the kind of organization that just gets formed in like a few months, probably.
Well, we'll see.
It could be.
We'll
Who
see.
knows?
Then there was the part where the Americans got attacked and something Fine related was hacking them, so their organization as well attacked. So they're bigger than they let on, but also they don't feel competent enough to be a real threat.
Yeah, so
there's a couple serious, I would say, just I would call it the kind of thing that, you know, we need more context. But if looked at on the surface, some of the things that they're doing seem contradictory.
Right.
Thus, I feel like their motivations might not be based entirely in the 100% accuracy of what their message is. In this episode and the previous episode.
And we've already seen some contradictions that are
they're explained.
They're explained.
They
more
wanted
attributed
Phonic
to
gain in order to awaken this relic that they brought.
Sure, but then also the whole thing of like, all right, we're going to get hostages, but there's some discord within the organization because Maria's like, I don't actually want to take hostages. Like, I wanted to make the appearance and everything and make my grand speech, but I don't want to do that. That's not my style, right?
Right, and I will let them go on the live broadcast and let people see that.
Right. But at the same time,
the fact that I did that means then that every single world leader is like, so what do you want then?
Because
do you want us to be scared of you? Do
but
you want
you're not
us to
gonna
love
hurt
you?
hostages, but at the same time you made a show
threatened the world,
threatening the world, and you took the hostages in the first place. Even
and
if you
aren't
let them
our major cities your hostage by the entire thing that you did there? So what the fuck kind of hypocrite are you then?
So what that communicates to me is that it's more of a thing of that she wanted to fight Tsubasa, right?
Yes.
But the problem with that is that the live broadcast was still going and she attacked her while that was happening. So it's either that she wants to kind of like strip her down from her like like place as an idol, which that whole thing
she wants to be the number one voice, if you will, in the world. I can see that. Sure.
And as far as the whole thing of like her musical career will be over, I feel like that's either just a cultural thing that I'm not getting as far as idols. It
definitely feels like a cultural thing because I do not buy that again.
And or that the stuff that Hibiki had in that flashback was potentially something related to the fact that if she is a known Symphogear user, if people don't like them for some reason of like you aren't able to save everybody or something like that, like you know, who knows, right? Maybe that's some flack that they don't want to fall on Tsubasa that would hurt her
That's
career.
Something that I feel like could tie potentially into the backstory with Hibiki that they're hinting at, but it doesn't have to. The idea that the world might not look at Symphogear users in a positive light is something that I hadn't considered, but I still have a couple problems with the way that they're trying to set up this story here because, if the goal then was to have Phonic gain at such a level that they're basically doing what episode 1 did of season 1.
Why not let the concert
go on?
Yeah.
Like, you literally took away all the singing people and then were surprised when the Phonic gain rate was too low.
And then and then you
risked your lives in a fight when they sang, and you were lucky enough that you have bullshit noise MacGuffin to come in and be like, we can make them sing enough that it will awaken the thing there.
And logic of the episode aside, because I feel like that's not necessarily the best metric to judge Symphogear by. No,
of course not.
This episode set up some things that were going to be really hype and then intentionally backpedaled on it in a really dissatisfying way. Like a 3-on-3 Symphogear fight. Hell yeah. Let's go. I am like, and we got a bit of it. Cool, right? And
it wasn't bad. It was just a bunch of 1v1s basically, switching out every once in a while, which is still okay.
And it was cut kind of arbitrarily short, which felt kind of like, okay. Like, the whole thing of Hibiki not being able to have her head in the game, like, all the stuff with Hibiki this episode, I really like, right?
Same.
And I'm
excited for the Hibiki stuff.
Oh, yeah, same.
Yeah.
And I was really excited to see how she ended up dealing with that in the midst of a fight where she doesn't have the opportunity to think about it, right? She can't really just, like, dwell on whatever this new backstory is or whatever, right?
I think they need to wrap up the episode at that point, though.
Yeah, maybe. But then it's okay, we're going to have this super new awesome like power, which might have actually been what they kind of did at the end of season 1. I'm not sure. This feels like something different, but be used against a noise, which like
it feels again like it's a thing of where, okay, I understand power escalation. This is a thing that you're gonna need to have happen. You want to surprise people with cool new stuff, but the superb song has now been diminished,
right? Immensely. Like it's
I love power of friendship stuff, but you have to leverage the trade-off. And we don't care about a slime noise.
Right. We care about Fine in a space fight, or chunks of the moon that are going to destroy,
Symphogear users that have character and humanity.
Yep.
And we know, Maria, you have your backstory.
Right.
You lost someone in a horrible situation.
Yep.
And your mother barely saved you, but horrifically was hurt by that.
And even now, it seems like not necessarily the best relationship and everything, because who's doing this for who and why and all of that stuff.
Yeah, because I don't feel like Maria is really in this based on the ways that she's acting right now. She does not seem to be okay. When the broadcast was going, she was very much owning the stage and stuff. And once the broadcast was off, there was the fight going on.
Right.
So she had her hands full just dealing with Tsubasa.
Sure.
She did not really give up much ground to Tsubasa in the fight. It was pretty fair, but Tsubasa is just that awesome.
Yeah.
So the 3-on-1 could have been a real rinse for Tsubasa, but I didn't really get much more of the character of Maria once the fight began.
Yeah.
And I guess that's because you need to introduce the two new characters.
Yep. And their character introduction was great. I loved that. That was awesome.
The stuff with the manager was hilarious.
Yep. I totally buy them as an enemy trio now. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But it was just something where it felt asynchronous or disharmonious
whereas Hibiki and Tsubasa and Christian were harmonized perfectly. The trio and the Fine organization and what they're doing outside of just getting the phonic gain, but the means by they did it, the way they did it, it feels like kids running an organization,
right?
Because they don't seem to know what they're doing.
That's the other thing that I felt like made the superb song be diminished even more. Is not that the fact that it's the three of them together to take out a noise, a single noise, even if it's a replicating whatever, right?
Sure.
Yeah. It's a complicated kind of bullshit mechanic that you have to basically
literally was introduced and was defeated 60 seconds later.
But you have to absolutely completely overkill it in order to actually kill it. All right,
that's cool.
Yeah. But then the thing that they do ends up also helping the villain organization immensely. And the villain organization didn't even have any way of knowing that they would do that. So you can't even chalk it up to the villain organization, forcing them into this or whatever. As far as they know, maybe the battle would have continued. But even then, you have half the phonic gain. Well, assuming the Symphogear users are able to generate equal amounts, right? Because you just took out your three from the fight, right? So you wouldn't even get that objective accomplished.
And while the biggest thing that they did, and this is the part that I would say is legitimate, and it needs to be stated, is that they probably scared the shit out of the world by saying that people can control the noise.
But not that guy with the noodles, which, by the way, I love him.
That was a hilarious introduction.
Awesome.
I don't know what it is about slurping noodles, but it's one of the most unsettling sounds for me. And so when a medium knows that that's a sound that people are ugh.
And it's for the high-up politician.
For the high-up politician, I'm like, yes.
And he keeps doing it. It's not
he doesn't care at all.
Right. It's
I love this. This is so goofy.
If it had just been like the one slurping of the noodles, like at the beginning of the call, it's like,
sorry,
Yeah. I have no time to eat. I'm constantly on the job. Okay, yeah, let's talk, right? That would have been that would have been kind of fun.
Parts buckwheat.
Yeah, like he kept going like that.
This is a perfect person for Genjiro to talk to.
I know. Like
him with his noodles and Genjiro with his movies.
Right.
You know, like 80s American action films or something. You know?
Considering the explanation that we got from Genjiro for why he's so freakishly strong and can do all these crazy things, right? Then having someone like this for him to talk to, love it. Love it.
See, Genjiro, the way he just gets strong is he watches Return of the Dragon and imagines himself beating the shit out of Chuck Norris, and it just makes him so strong. He's just like, yeah. But, okay. All that stuff aside, if we get a Hibiki backstory that goes into some trauma, that goes into some family shit, that goes into some potentially interesting stuff that like ties back to the present with her being a Symphogear user, and then there's this underlying theme of the idea of what are these girls being forced to do by being living weapons, basically, and what tax does that take on them as people that we can then use the new villain group to be a mirror of that for the protagonist. I'm excited for that. Please do that, because I think they will. That's
I think so too.
That's the kind of thing that you do over the long haul of a series. But if you want to like double down on it here in season 2,
this episode,
do it.
Like for all the things that I didn't enjoy as much from this episode, it was very much an intentional setup episode of like, okay, we're gonna set basically the direction and the tone for the rest of the season, and it wasn't as enjoyable on its own, but
premiere,
but it probably set up a lot of things that are going to be fun to explore down the road. A couple things that I could see being potential ways in which the Hibiki backstory ends up being like explored, explained, etc. is we know that there's been kind of like a power struggle of like who has Symphogear users, and if you think about it, right, like in season 1 that was a big thing.
Sure.
And if you're going to be secretive about this thing that helps people fight the noise when the noise cannot be fought any other way, that sounds pretty shitty, right? And then that could make it so that the people who have the Symphogear and are complicit in letting the information of something that could save countless lives being kept under wraps. Oh, that sounds real scummy. Or survivor's guilt, right? From the very beginning, right? When the noise attack in the first episode of season 1 and all these people die, right? And Hibiki somehow survives. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a ton of people that were like, oh,
so you were the one?
Right, exactly. Why do you get to live and my daughter is dead? Right? That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I could totally see that being something where maybe Hibiki is able to take it okay because she's like naturally very upbeat and everything. But not a family.
Yeah.
And Hibiki has to see what it does to her family.
That's the one that I'm most certain of, like as far as like which of the ways in which this ties back to the present. Not the present, but the because it's not necessarily a backstory, but the way it ties to the struggles of her, whether or not she's being a hypocrite, is like what ways in which this whole process has been going. Has she actually suffered versus has she caused others to suffer?
Right.
And that's a really cool mixed bag one. So I'm
Miku could give her a whole dissertation on people that she's caused to suffer.
It's all good now. It's water under the
they
bridge.
have healed
they love
that
each
hurt.
other.
It's great.
It's wholesome. And
but
sweet.
it really sucked when she had to deal with that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below. For our Patreon, you can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. So you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if ain't that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.